I never thought I'd become invisible in my own daughter's eyes, but somewhere between her 16th birthday and her 21st, I stopped being a person to her and became something to be embarrassed about, something old and outdated, like the phone I carried in my cardigan pocket. That phone, let me tell you, it became the symbol of everything she thought was wrong with me. Every time I pulled it out, her face would twist into this expression I came to know so well, that mixture of disgust and pity that only a child can give their parent when they think you've fallen hopelessly behind the times. "Mom, oh my, that phone," she'd say, drawing out the words like they physically pained her. "It's literally from the Stone Age. Why won't you just upgrade? I've offered to buy you a new one like 10 times. And she had, to be fair. But what she didn't understand, what she was too young and too caught up in her own glittering world to understand, was that I didn't want a new phone. This one worked just fine. It made calls, it took pictures, it had that little recorder function I'd discovered by accident one afternoon when I was trying to figure out how to leave myself a reminder about picking up Margaret's prescription from the pharmacy. My daughter's name is Sarah, and I need you to understand that I loved her more than my own heartbeat. She was everything to me after her father died, after cancer took him so quickly we barely had time to say goodbye. 4 years, it was just us two against the world, and those were good years, sweet years filled with Saturday morning pancakes and late-night talks when she'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms even though she was far too old for it. But people change, don't they? Or maybe they just reveal who they always were underneath. It started subtly. Little comments about my clothes being frumpy, about how I embarrassed her in front of her friends, about how I didn't understand anything about the modern world. I'd laugh it off, try to take it in stride, tell myself this was just a phase, that all daughters went through this with their mothers. But it got worse after she graduated college and got that fancy job at the marketing firm downtown. Suddenly she was making more money than I'd ever seen in my life as a school librarian, and suddenly everything about me became a referendum on her success. She'd bring her boyfriend Marcus around, this slick-talking man with perfect teeth and expensive watches, and I could see her watching me through his eyes, cataloguing all my inadequacies. The phone became her favorite target. "Mom, seriously, how do you even live like this?" she'd say at Sunday dinners, which became less frequent as the months went on. "That thing can't even run apps. It's embarrassing. What if you need to call an Uber? What if there's an emergency?" I'd remind her quietly that I'd survived 63 years without apps and Uber, that I had a perfectly good car and a landline and neighbors who checked on me. But my words seemed to bounce off her like rain off glass. What she didn't know, what I never told her, was that I'd figured out something about that old phone that made it more valuable to me than any gleaming new device could ever be. You see, my hearing isn't what it used to be, and sometimes when Sarah would come over, she and Marcus would sit in my living room talking while I puttered in the kitchen, and I couldn't quite make out what they were saying. So one day, I started leaving my phone on the coffee table with that recorder function running. Not to spy, I told myself. Just to catch up on what I'd missed, to stay connected to my daughter's life in whatever small way I could. The first few recordings were innocent enough. Talk about work, about their plans for the weekend, about some restaurant they wanted to try. I'd listen to them while washing dishes, smiling at the sound of my daughter's laugh, that beautiful sound I'd known since she was hours old. But then the recordings started to change. I remember the exact moment everything shifted. It was a Tuesday evening in March, the kind of wet, grey evening that makes you want to curl up with tea and a book. Sarah had stopped by unexpectedly with Marcus, said they were in the neighborhood and thought they'd drop in for a quick visit. I'd been so happy to see her, had bustled around making coffee and setting out the cookies I'd baked that morning, her favorite, chocolate chip with walnuts, the same recipe I'd been making since she was 5 years old. And while I was in the kitchen, while I was arranging those cookies on the good plate, the one with the little blue flowers that had been my mother's, they were sitting in my living room, and my phone was sitting on the coffee table, recording every word. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," Sarah's voice said on the recording I listened to later that night, lying in my bed in the dark. "Coming here, pretending like everything's fine. Look at this place, Marcus. Look at how she lives. It's depressing." Marcus's voice, lower, harder to hear. "She's your mom, babe. She's not going to be around forever. Don't say that like I'm some kind of monster," Sarah snapped. "You don't understand. Growing up here, being the kid whose mom worked at the school library, whose mom drove that ancient car, whose mom never had money for anything. Do you know what that was like? While everyone else was going on ski trips and getting cars for their 16th birthday, I was wearing thrift store clothes and babysitting to save for college. My hands had trembled, holding that phone in the darkness. Because yes, it was true, we hadn't had much money. But I'd thought we'd been happy. I'd thought she understood that I'd done my best, that I'd given her everything I could. The thing is, Sarah continued on that recording, her voice clearer now, sharper. I've been thinking about the house. When she goes, I mean. Eventually. It's in a good neighborhood, Marcus. We could probably get 4, maybe 500,000 for it. Enough for a down payment on something really nice. Sarah, Marcus said, and there was something in his tone I couldn't quite read, something between warning and encouragement. What? I'm being practical. She's 63, she's not exactly young. And it's not like she has any other family. This place is going to be mine someday anyway. We might as well plan for it. I stopped the recording there. Couldn't listen to any more. Just lay there in my bed, in the house I'd lived in for 35 years, the house where I'd brought her home from the hospital, where I'd taught her to ride a bike in the driveway, where I'd held her while she cried over her first heartbreak, and I felt something inside me crack apart like ice on a winter pond. But I didn't confront her. Not then. Maybe I should have. Maybe a stronger person would have. But I was afraid, you see. Afraid that if I confronted her, I'd lose her completely, and she was all I had left. So I just kept listening to the recordings, kept pressing that button whenever she visited, kept collecting evidence of my own daughter's impatience for my death like some kind of macabre hobby. The recordings got worse. Talk about how outdated my furniture was, how much work the house would need before they could sell it, speculation about my health and how long I might have left. She eats terribly, Sarah said on one recording. All that butter and sugar. I give her maybe 10 years, tops. She said it so casually, like she was discussing the weather, like she was talking about a stranger instead of the woman who'd sat up with her through every childhood illness, who'd worked double shifts to pay for her college textbooks, who'd loved her with every cell of her body. And then Marcus started coming over alone sometimes. Sarah would be at work, she'd say, too busy to visit, but Marcus would drop by with some excuse about being in the neighborhood. At first, I thought maybe he was trying to build a relationship with me, maybe he was kinder than I'd given him credit for. I'd make him coffee, try to make small talk, leave my phone recording on the table like always. You know Sarah really loves you, he said to me one afternoon, sitting on my couch with his expensive shoes on my coffee table. She just worries about you, that's all. About you being alone in this big house. But after he left, when I listened to the recording, I heard him on the phone to someone, probably while I was in the bathroom. Yeah, I'm at the old lady's place now, he said. Playing the dutiful boyfriend. Sarah thinks if I butter her up, maybe she'll change her will, leave everything directly to Sarah instead of some charity or whatever. These old people, you never know what they're going to do. Got to keep them sweet. That's when I realized they were running a con on me, my own daughter and her boyfriend, circling me like vultures, just waiting for me to die so they could cash in. And the worst part, the part that kept me up at night, was that my daughter had become this person. My sweet Sarah, who used to pick dandelions for me and call them flowers, who used to say I was the best mommy in the whole world, had turned into someone who saw me as nothing more than an inconvenience with assets. I started playing a longer game then. Started really thinking about what I was going to do with this information. Because I realized I had something powerful in my hands, evidence of their true feelings, their real plans, all saved on the phone they mocked me for keeping. The mockery continued, got worse if anything. Mom, that phone, honestly, Sarah would say every time she visited, which became less and less frequent. It's so embarrassing. What if someone sees you with it? What if someone from my work sees my mother with that ancient thing? As if my phone had anything to do with her, as if my existence was only relevant in how it reflected on her image. It works fine, I'd say mildly, tucking it back in my pocket where it rested against my heart, my little secret, my little insurance policy. Months passed. A year. I kept collecting recordings, kept documenting every cruel comment, every mercenary calculation. And I made some changes too. Quietly, carefully. Updated my will with my lawyer, made some arrangements, had some difficult conversations. All while playing the part of the oblivious old mother, the embarrassment with the outdated phone. It was Sarah's 28th birthday when everything came to a head. She'd agreed to have dinner with me, a rare concession these days. I cooked her favorite meal, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, made a cake from scratch. She showed up an hour late with Marcus, both of them dressed like they had somewhere better to be. "We can't stay long," she announced before she'd even taken off her coat. "We have tickets to a show downtown." "Of course," I said, setting the food on the table with shaking hands. "I'm just glad you're here at all." During dinner, she complained about the food being too heavy, about the house being cold, about everything and nothing. And then, as we were having cake, she spotted my phone on the counter and couldn't resist one more jab. "Mom, that phone. I swear I'm just going to buy you a new one and throw that thing away. It's beyond embarrassing at this point. It's like you're trying to make me look bad." And something in me just snapped. Maybe it was the way she said it, like my phone was somehow about her. Maybe it was the accumulation of months of listening to her wish me dead. Maybe it was just that I was tired, so tired of being treated like I was already gone. "Funny you should mention the phone," I said quietly, and something in my voice made them both look at me. "Because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. You're right, it is old. But it does have some interesting features you might not know about." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Mom, please, we don't need a lecture about your ancient technology. It has a very good recorder," I continued, my voice steady now, stronger than it had been in months. "Records for hours at a time. Crystal clear quality. And I've been using it quite a bit lately." I watched the color drain from Sarah's face as understanding dawned. Marcus went still beside her, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. "You see," I said, pulling the phone from my pocket and setting it on the table between us, "I've been recording your visits. All of them. For over a year now. Every conversation you thought I couldn't hear. Every plan you made for after I'm gone. Every calculation about what this house is worth. Every time you called me an embarrassment. Every time you wished I'd die already so you could take what's mine. It's all here." "Mom," Sarah whispered, her face white, "I can explain." "I don't want your explanations," I said, and I was surprised by how calm I felt, how clear. "I want you to listen. I want you to hear what you've become, what you've turned into. I raised you better than this, Sarah. I loved you better than this. And I won't pretend anymore that you love me back." I played her some of the recordings then. Just a few. Enough to watch her face crumble, to see Marcus start making excuses to leave. I played the one where she talked about how depressing my life was. The one where she calculated how many years I had left. The one where Marcus admitted he was just playing nice to influence my will. "I've changed my will," I told them when the recordings ended, when the house was silent except for Sarah's quiet crying. "Everything goes to charity. The house, my savings, everything. You'll get nothing. And I've made copies of these recordings, given them to my lawyer with instructions to make them public if anything suspicious happens to me. So don't even think about it." "Mom, please," Sarah begged, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. I was stressed. I didn't mean those things. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "I understand perfectly," I said. "I understand that you stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as an inheritance. I understand that somewhere along the way, I lost my daughter, and I don't think I'm ever getting her back." They left after that, Marcus practically dragging Sarah out the door. She turned back once, her face streaked with tears, and for a moment she looked like my little girl again, like the child who used to think I hung the moon. But then the moment passed, and she was just a stranger standing in my doorway, a stranger who happened to look like my daughter. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard from her since. The house is quiet now, quieter than it's been in years. I sit in my living room with my old phone in my pocket, and sometimes I listen to the old recordings, the ones from when she was younger and still loved me, still called me just to talk about her day, still said "I love you, Mom," like she meant it. People ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd never found out, if ignorance would have been better. But I don't think so. Because at least now I'm living in truth, painful as it is. At least now I'm not waiting for love that was never really there, not hoping for a daughter who stopped existing years ago. I've started volunteering at the children's library downtown, reading to kids whose parents work late. They look at me with such trust, such simple affection, and it helps. Not much, but enough. Enough to remind me that I'm not unlovable, that I'm not the problem. That I gave everything I had to my daughter, and if she couldn't see the value in that, if all she could see was dollar signs and embarrassment, then that's her failing, not mine. My old phone sits on the table beside me as I tell you this story. It's still working, still recording, still holding on to every piece of evidence that my daughter loved my inheritance more than she ever loved me. Some people might say I should delete the recordings, that I should try to rebuild the relationship, that I should forgive and forget. But some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness. Some truths, once known, can't be unknown. And sometimes, the phone they mocked you for keeping is the only thing that shows you who people really are.